Yes, yes, yes. We are back for another open court discussion live in the Counselor's Corner. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me is my co host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis. Oh, the wolf is back. Must be some shit tonight. On Monday, tonight, July 6th, 9 p.m., we will be discussing the topic Love is Free, but Relationships Cost. Good evening, everyone. Let's stop lying before we get started. Dating is transactional. It always was. In the 1950s, the deal was his paycheck for her household housework. In the 90s, it was his potential for her looks. In 2010, it was his clout for her Instagram. And in 2026, it's your piece for their access, your nervous system for their company, your time for their future. The only difference now is we have the receipts: height, income, kids, trauma, body count, credit score. It's all on the app before you say hello. Tinder didn't make dating transactional. Tinder just stopped letting us pretend it wasn't. So if you came here to hear just follow your heart, then turn this shit off. Just get off. Um, all right, turn this up. Hearts don't, because listen, hearts don't pay mortgages, hearts don't co parent, and hearts don't regulate themselves after 10 p.m. when your ex texts you. If you stay, if you stay, it's because you're tired of being broke, buying romance you can't afford. You're 35 and plus. You have a lease, a child, an ex, a budget, and in a body that keeps score. You don't have time for vibes. You need terms. For the next 2 hours, we're doing a audit on them, on not on them, but on you. What's your currency? What's your cost? And why are you mad the market priced you accurately? This is the controversial counselor and the big bad wolf. Dating is a merger. So let's read out loud the contract. All right, so here we are. Don't mind me, my struggles reading. Usually I had this typed out, but I didn't print it out, so I had to read my own handwriting. I said, damn, God damn, it's bad. It didn't used to be, but woo. But here we are. Lots been going on. Hope everybody had a peaceful holiday as much as possible. I know in Niagara Falls it was a lot of things going on, a couple deaths, and it's just unfortunate because the city's so small. So when deaths occur there, pretty much most people know who the individuals are or know their parents, uncles, aunts, or somebody, but some are just getting started. It's gonna be wild. It's just gonna get wild, and I would. I'm gonna let Big Bad Wolf speak on it, but I would encourage people stay away from huge crowds of people. Stay away, especially when these young folks have access to come there and be a part of it. They not. I don't know what type of game they're playing, but the crazy thing is, like I think I was reading somebody had posted earlier, and we've talked about this before. Yeah, parents need, when you know your kids in that is in that type of life, they shouldn't have access to in and out your house and you glorify that stuff. You should be saying to yourself, don't bring that shit near my house because people come back to retaliate. But because the only way they're gonna stop until they hit rock bottom and they have nowhere to turn, And then people usually make change when they feel uncomfortable and say, damn, I can't keep doing this, or I can't keep living like this. I just did some time, I got out, I need to change. But if they freelancing and still doing what they want, then you're gonna get the results that you got this past weekend, which a 19-year-old who had a young baby is lost. Sending my condolences out to you, Kat. Been knowing you since you was younger, and always was good people, and always was supportive and proactive, and would get a skin off your back to help others. I don't know the young man who got killed. I haven't even got names on that, but
Yeah, think they gave his name.
it's very unfortunate. But I would just say for people, be mindful of these crowds, these big crowds at these events. I know you want to say, "Oh, I want to be outside. I want to do that." Yo, sometimes you may go outside. That may be your last breath being outside. Yeah. Hey Doc, how you doing? And I seen some footage of some people in Buffalo a while into they was fighting like like crazy. These young people, I'm like, man, they think this shit is cool. They think it's cool, but that's all I'm gonna say for right now. What's going on, Big Bad Wolf?
I'm gonna pick up the baton where you left it. I said it last week. I sat here in his church chair and said it last week that no parent should have to bury their child. That is not the natural progression of life. And what are we talking about now? Kat, I have no words for your pain. I don't. We are here for whatever you need. Reach out. It's time for this community to close ranks. And like David said, start out in these people, man. They don't mean no one, anyone, any good. Like David said, you got to start closing your doors. So if this is your son, if this is your nephew, if he's an uncle, you need to disassociate yourself from that or these individuals. They are destroying with their hands what little we have left in this city as a black community. And it ain't much. And people are going to say, well, you don't understand. No, I do understand, which is why I'm not out in the streets, which is why I have really ever been in the streets. And I spoke to my nephew when he was young, when he got out. Look, if you want to come and do what you do, I got a big old house, man. Come here. I'm the uncle that comes down on the nephews when they doing that type of shit. I tell them you're wrong. They say, no, I know, uncle, but no. It's not you know. Do better. So I'm not trying to hear anybody talking about me being a goody two shoes. I ain't never been about being a goody two shoes. I've been about staying out of harm's way. And I believe I've done that. I'm 54. No criminal record. I can travel freely. There's a lot of other things that I can do. There's a lot of wisdom I have that I can share. But as some people say, these YNs, they ain't trying to listen. They think they got it figured out until they're laying in a hospital gurney with a hole in them because they're running with the wrong crowd. People, newsflash, wake up. Wake the fuck up. People are dropping because they think they got this shit figured out and they don't know what they're getting into. Like David said, once you pull a thread on this, it don't stop. Because people don't have the wherewithal to think where this is leading to and why and how do we stop it. Like I said, my peoples, speak to your peoples, man, and tell them, look, this ain't the way. We gotta do better. And why do we have to do better? Because when we do better, we can hold their goddamn feet to the fire and they can't do the shit that they do to us because they say we act a certain way. Yeah, that's right. It's an OJ jersey. And I, for one, I'm sick of the nonsense that's going on that's being done because they're trying to typecast All of us. Not one, not two, not a handful, but all of us. Because they say, well, if one is doing it, they are guilty without looking at themselves in the mirror. Now, I'm not saying that they are as a group are bad because I know better. But we can't fight that fight if y'all don't help us. And y'all not helping us because every time we turn around, y'all doing something dumb. Put down the weapons. And if you got beef with somebody, we're not saying you can't settle your beef, but settling your beef shouldn't have to end up with someone dying. You want to squabble with somebody, call that person on, y'all get to knuckle, man, and squabble. And when you're done, you're done. Leave it there. Don't bring that mess to your family. Don't bring that mess to your siblings, your kids, or somebody else's kids in the neighborhood. Because the next thing you know, that stuff spills into the schools. And when it hits the schools, there's only one way they're going to deal with it. And I guarantee you, y'all not ready for that. Stop it. Stop the nonsense.
Yeah, and when you think about it, you even think about these past couple weekends as we came here on Monday night, it was these incidents. You got to believe that it's probably going to go on. It's going to be some aftermath from the 4th of July. It's going to be some aftermath of the brawl, the basketball game. And it's unfortunate. And that's why I say, just be mindful. Just be mindful. This is for my cousins, my nephew, my friends, or people and family members that just think about your personnel. Like I said last week, when it's an event and the potential people that could show up there. You may be good. Your 4 or 5 people you hang with may be good. But think about the others that's going to be there and what type of shit they bring to the table, and let that be your driving force to say, nah, I wouldn't mind going, but I'll pass. I'll pass. I'll be at more peace at home because shucking and whatever the saying is, shucking and diving or whatever.
Driving, yeah.
Driving.
It's not getting done.
Listening to music and all that. You do that shit you could pop your fingers in your mirror in your house and have a damn drink and invite a few people over, whatever. It's not worth it. Because also you got to understand too, the mindset of what's going on in our communities, in this society with inflation, people losing jobs, this weather been extraordinarily hot, whatever. So that causes people to be irritated. It's just a lot of frustrations going on, and people are not talking it out. They're using situations that is final, like that's it, end the story. And unfortunately, sometimes people, innocent bystanders, get caught up in these situations when they probably wasn't the type that even be around like that, but they decide to say, you know what, I want to step out. It's the holiday weekend. A lot of times you have family in town and you just want to extend your night, have a good time, but you got to think about it. Got to think about the people that potentially can be there and how much access they got to coming there. See, it was different back in our days where you go to certain places and they was clear about shit. You got to be this age. You can't come in there with no sneakers. You can't come in there with no hats. You got to. And usually when people dress nice, they have a different affect, a different attitude about themselves. They feel like I'm too clean for this. I want to feel professional. I want to feel like I got a little class. But hey, like Herb mentioned it, when they get to schools, we see how that is in schools. And I could tell you when you see kids coming through with pajamas and house shoes on and stuff like that, like they just rolled out of bed, and bonnets, and I always say to kids, oh, what kind of pancakes you made this morning? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Mr. Glover? Look like your ass just got up, made some damn pancakes, eggs, and all that. Now your ass walking through the hall like you just getting up for breakfast. Like you in school. It's time to go to work. And but that mindset leads to behaviors, different behaviors. Hey, if you can go out somewhere 35 and over and you can wear a hoodie or a white tee and all that stuff, and sagging pants and all that stuff, then that's probably the type of attitude, atmosphere that's going to be created. So just be mindful of those type of places and what's going on, because dress code and all that stuff does matter with the mindset. You
Yeah,
don't see too many people
uh,
fighting with tuxedos on and all dressed up like that.
really. And I'll tell you, having worked security, I've seen just about every kind of situation that life can present. And like David said, very rarely will you see a fight at a wedding. I've seen a couple, but rare, few and far between. And I've seen well over 200 or 300 weddings, receptions, a lot of alcohol, rarely any fights. And if it is, it's by somebody who got too inebriated, wasn't really supposed to be there. And when I say really wasn't supposed to be there, they were only supposed to appear for a certain particular reason, and they were supposed to be gone. And they wore out their welcome, and people said, "Okay, you got to go," and that's when the altercation starts. But yeah, man, this is it's got to stop. I mean, it's just it's senseless. It is senseless. There was something else I was going to say, and I can't remember what it was. Other than the large gatherings, and people, don't be fooled. People know who are doing what or who is doing what, because you hear it on the audio recordings when people they're going live. I there's a recording that outside of the hospital that the young man who was recording, I don't know who he was talking about that. Well, they know who's doing it, but they ain't saying nothing because they don't want to be snitching. Newsflash. That's not snitching. I want y'all to understand what snitching is. Snitching is being involved directly with what is going on, meaning if y'all going to steal something, y'all going to hurt somebody, and you with that crew, and one of y'all get caught and you blow a person in, that's snitching. People coming around shooting up your neighborhoods, and you know who was doing, and you blow them in, that ain't snitching. That's protecting your community. Big difference. Protect your community. Because I'm going to tell you now, you come around me doing that nonsense, not only am I pulling out the phone, I'm trying to give names and phone numbers and addresses. You need to be locked the fuck up. You don't need to be on the street with normal people who are living their lives, going to work, doing what they need to do to take care of their family. I don't give a fuck who knows. And trust me, push come to shove, I'm not worried about dying. My people's got my back. And I ain't got to say nothing else about that. You're right, Greg. That was in reference to the OJ thing, and I don't think you're necessarily partly because where you're located at to the vitriol that I'm seeing posted locally. That's why I say that. But you are absolutely correct, Greg. And if that went out that way, let me apologize. Caucasian people are not blacks' enemy. We are. But when it comes to the OJ thing, it's almost racially sensitive that a lot of people are taking racial sides. That's why I made that statement. But there are quite a few Caucasian people who are saying, look, okay. But let me finish that statement anyway. But there are quite a few Caucasian people who are saying it's wrong and it's a travesty, because you can't talk about the Buffalo Bills and you can't talk about the NFL in terms of running backs without mentioning the man. He's in the Hall of Fame, for goodness sakes. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame and he's in the NFL Hall of Fame. He's part of Hollywood folklore. The not only the Hertz commercials, but the movies Airplane. all over the place. You can't. I'm gonna get off my soapbox because man, I can stay up there for a bit. But yeah, man, this. I mean, I know athletes. They they command a lot in terms of attention. Realize something. They are human. And it's funny. I remember seeing this one time, and they pulled all the crimes that had been done by athletes, and they compared them to the U.S. Congress. And the U.S. Congress, by far and away, had more criminals than the NFL players. Let that sink in.
So when you look at Doc had made a comment saying, in all honesty, we are doing the job for them by us killing each other, which we gotta know what is being meant and what some people think is happening. That like we are our own worst enemy. That if other races don't like us, then we're doing then they could just sit back and watch because we're doing it to ourselves. And some people, unfortunately, Greg, may have that view that that other races may be our enemies, but again, that depends on the individual. That depends on your perception, your upbringing, your experiences. That like none of this stuff is absolutes. So there's good and bad in every race. So Greg had responded, "Good grief, non-blacks are not the enemy." Um, well, unfortunately, some people, like I said, feel that they are the enemy, and that's kind of their mindset. Some of that is learned behavior, a learned thought process that's been instilled in them, and that's what they believe. Me personally, I just believe you gotta focus on yourself. Sometimes you can't worry about everything else out there. You only can control what you can control, and to make sure that you try to put yourself in the best situations. Uh, are there people in my own race that I may dislike? Of course. Are there other race people in other races you may dislike for certain reasons? Of course. But the bottom line is you don't try to let it affect you to the point that it leads to violence or wishing bad on anybody. My thing is I always say people if they mind their business and do what they got to do, and if each person held themselves accountable for certain things, this world would be a better place. But all too often, everybody's in everybody business or worried about this or that, and you see that by the commentary on social media. People speaking out of term or saying things or speaking on the subject matter that they really shouldn't be invested in. Because when I see something, if I don't have no investment in it, I'm just reading the comments and keeping it moving. I'm not trying to get into no big old arguments or debates with people over certain things. So, but that's the way the world, this is the way it goes, man. It's the way it is, unfortunately. What else was said? But we don't want to see all Americans, regardless of race, learn to obey the laws. Non-blacks in general. Majority of us are not rooting for you to kill each other. Daphne said, "No, we aren't. But please understand that there's a different class of black folks. I know you already know."
Yeah.
Mm.
Angry Man has talked about this. Shout out to Angry Man, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to say it. You said there's blacks and there's niggas. Shout out to Star. She, I would love to be able to read what she wrote. It's rather lengthy. I'm going to drop it in the group and read it, and you draw your own stance on it. But like she said, you know, we're moving to a point now where we are going to self separate, and we're going to leave the dregs of our culture behind. And I think that's the only way this becomes addressed. Like we pushing them out there and say, hey, look, if this is the type of culture you want to embrace, go ahead and embrace it, but do that over there. Do that on those side of the tracks. So when the police come, we can say they are over there. They're not here. We don't tolerate that anymore because that's the only way that we are going to be able to clean up what we see. Nobody wants to live life like that. Nobody wants to have to put bars on their doors, fences up in the yards, security cameras. We don't want to live like that. That's not living. That's surviving. This is why a lot of well-to-do people move to gated communities because in that community, they know very little harm, if any, is going to come to anyone in there. Okay, you know what? That's a very good question, Greg, and that's going to lead to our segue for dating because that's for me. And this is just my personal opinion. I can't really substantiate this. I think this is where it all begins, and I think dating, especially for us, and Courtney was mentioned earlier. I think that's the crux of our problem. See, when we courted, or when courting was the way that you got together with somebody, and a lot of people don't understand what courting is. So let me make this clear what courting is. Courting was when you showed interest in a woman. Her family knew about it, your family knew about it, and your dates were chaperoned. There were other people in your business, yes, in your business, that was saying whether you two were compatible. Why? Because families were coming together. It wasn't just two people, it was families were coming together. Bonds were being built. Legacies were being cemented. So when the kids came into the union, not only did they have all the support of the immediate family, they had the support of the in-laws from both sides. So if the mother or father was short on something, the family would step in. There was none of this degeneracy. And if it was very little. And by the time they got to be teenagers, it was addressed. But now we don't have that. We have people just producing kids at random. And I'm not here to judge those who have children at random. They didn't plan. But that's part of what the chaperoning process was because the chaperone filled what was needed. See, we have a lot of people out here who just dating indiscriminately. So you ask them, well, what are your needs versus your wants when you date? And they said, well, I don't have any needs. I have my needs covered. So what are your needs then? Well, I need to work. Okay. I need to have a place to live. Okay. And I need companionship. Do you need companionship? Or does that need of companionship so strongly does it manifest itself so strongly within you that you treat it as a want and you're willing to push aside some things that you know in yourself they compromise your integrity so you can get this individual, whether it be male or female. And we're all guilty of it. Males and females alike, we're guilty of it. We will ignore some things that we know we shouldn't be around for whatever reason. She's got a great body. She's got a good personality. I heard he slings it in bed. We all do it. Everybody on some level is guilty of it, myself included. But this is why we need people to pull our coattails and say, come on, dude. The last sort of you got what that looked like that. What happened? Yo, man, no. There is no yo, man, but. Those type of women aren't good for you. But what do? We ignore that because we're treating that need, that desire as a want. and we fail to realize it's not working. And it's not till we get to be, especially if you haven't been married, not till you get to be in your late 30s. If you ran the gauntlet and you don't have any no and you have no children, you say, you know what? I gotta sit my ass down and let the music play and watch those who out there playing musical chairs, musical chairs. Because I don't need to dance that dance anymore. I don't need to be out there with them. It's a jungle. I'm content to sit here at the top of the canopy and just look and say, damn, did I do that type of stuff when I was dating? Because, and this is something that David and I were talking about earlier before we came live. A lot of stuff is being put on men. You know, what is the men doing? Can he this? Can he that? Understandably so, because that goes back to the yesteryear of where the principal desire for a woman was found at. Is he a good provider? Can he be a good father? Can he be a good protector? Can he lead his family? And most of those answers were yes, yes, and yes. Why? Well, because society was set up in a certain way that you had to work as a man. You can be a scofflaw. You can be out here being that big of a deadbeat. Now, yes, there are quite a few men in that time who had quite a few families in different parts of the town. He was known. So any woman that said she didn't know, she was lying. She wanted to get with him anyway for whatever reason. And those were her reasons. Now, I'm not here to castigate anybody for making decisions based on their reasoning. Like I said, your wants, your needs, they should dictate what kind of woman you're dealing with, what kind of man you're dealing with. And if they don't, then the first person anyone needs to start looking to quote unquote blame or hold accountable is in the mirror.
Well, well, I think that's why the whole subject dating is transactional because it's always something that somebody may expect you to be putting out, whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's peace. There's something and that there is exchange for. Like Doc says, she said, my level is does he have a 401k, a retirement plan, multiple streams of income to match me so we could build together, especially going 2 vacations a year. That's something that she wants. And we always talked about marriage is a business. Well, dating is a business too. It's all a business. And as the title of the subject, love is free, but relationships cost. So you're going to have to give up something in hopes to get something back. A lot of times when you're in an original dating thing, um, you know, and that was the thing that Carnell had the post that
Mm-hmm.
I read about. Men should pay for all the dates and pay 100% this and that. And but then some men, because of that, their transaction that they may want, like, hey, I'm paying for this. They may want sex in return or something. It's gonna be something that they want in return. So you can't expect to say that you want all of this or that, but then they may say, "Hey, you ain't got to buy me nothing and all that. I just want the companionship. I want this. I want to be able to have access to you, be able to spend time when I'm feeling like this, or you just never know." That's why it's important to communicate uh, these wants and desires. Daphne said, "I'm going back on the porch." Hold on, hold on. There's some other comments. You said, "Let me adjust my thing." it's a jungle. I was just traumatized this weekend by people my age acting like they don't have dick or coochie control. Too impulsive for me. I'm going back on the porch. I was appalled. I've been a wife for 32 years, and I know this scene is definitely not for me. Greg said, buy a meal and expect sex. That's degrade a woman to being a prostitute with the price of one meal. Sick.
Woo!
It doesn't mean it's just one meal, but uh, again, that depends on the individual. It may not just be sex, but they might be like, damn, I couldn't even get a kiss, a hug, or something might be going through their mind. And a thinking man would say, all right, just be patient. It's all gonna work out. I'm just gonna continue being who I am and let things happen organically, and may the chips fall where they fall. But then you have some people who really feel like, shit, I just spent $200, 300 on this, whatever. Damn, I ain't gonna keep doing this all the time and not get nothing. And then again, like I talked about last week, sometimes some of their responses is peer motivated. That when they're talking to their boys, oh, you've been hanging out with old girl in a while, man. You ain't stayed over yet. You ain't get a room, or you ain't do this or that. How much did you spend? Because as Herb always say, sometimes you talk too fucking much. So you sitting there telling every day, yeah, we just went out. I spent $400. What? How many times you did that? Man, it's probably like our fourth, fifth day. And you ain't got a kiss. You ain't got this. Now he's pressuring the woman at that point because he feeling stupid. He feeling stupid, and he led with these type of dates. So now there's no turning back. There's no so she may become accustomed to that. And it's just it's where we at, whatever, and it all depends on individuals, whatever. You know what you want. You know what your desires are. You know what you're gonna stand for, what you willing to settle for. The whole standard thing. It's like a business merger. That's something that you want in the non-negotiables, but and that happens. Sometimes two people have to come together, and sometimes you have to make tweaks or revisions on things that you want. But it's wild out there. It's wild.
Let me read what Deputy said first. She said, "I was in a group setting, and the kiss was planted on me mid sentence. Yeah, this situations like that, they're forced, and I don't know the man, and quite frankly, I don't want to know him. But when you start doing things like that, you soil your reputation, and not only even if there was a monochrome of chance that that female may have accepted it, you ruined it now. Not only did you ruin your reputation with her, you ruined it in front of everybody who's seen. So the men have no respect for you. They may admire the fact that you tried it, but trust me, they have no respect. And the woman is gonna be like, okay, if he's doing that here, what does he do in his private setting? And what would he try if I were in that situation and we weren't here and there wasn't anyone to stop him? So yeah, fellas, don't do that. Just 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 don't. Just just don't. You don't want to catch an assault charge over something like that. But back to
But let
the
me say that.
pain. Yeah.
Hey, Jack, I hope that kiss was planted on the cheek, but it sounded like it was lip, like they went in. That's wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I ain't. That's crazy. But let me get back to the costing and this, and it's not that men want to degrade or debase women and and kind of say, look, this is this is what I expect for doling out some cash. Very rarely will anyone who's in the realm of business invest in something and not expect some kind of return. Whether returns immediate or whether returns a little later, they're going to expect some return. This is how dating has become for the vast majority of men. It's an investment. They say, I'm taking you out, I expect something in return. Now, I understand the women's plight. They're saying, look, it's worth much more than that. Okay, I agree. But, and I want women to listen. I want you to listen very well, okay? If it's worth more than that, then what is the price that you, as the woman, put on that? And if that price is met, are you willing to part with it with that man for a night? That's the question that women need to answer. Since you all, and I understand, don't want to necessarily put a monetary amount on it, then how does that man secure sex with you? Because ultimately, most men are going to say, look, why don't we skip this whole awkwardness about getting to know each other? Because you know what I want, you know what I need, as the song goes, and I can just part with it. We can get it in, we can get it on, and I'm going about my business. In between, we should never have to meet again. Because that ultimately, that's what we see out here. As women say, well, I want a Birkin bag, or you got to pay my rent, you got to get my nails done, you got to get my hair done, you got to buy me some shoes, you got to buy me an outfit to go out. It's like, yo, wait a minute. I just, we're supposed to be getting to know each other. You want me to furnish your home, buy you something, and do all this to take you out?
See, let me just, I think in cases like that, these women really don't like that guy to begin with. And they just out to, because the guy that they like, he probably ain't got to do shit. None of that. If she really like him and that's who she really want to be with, and she probably already did his homework on him, like, nah, he don't do that. He don't get down like that. Then some of that wouldn't even be put out there. But I just want to take Greg back to one of my transactions. Your favorite line, the pickup line that you always bring up when I said to the young lady when I was younger that I wanted to take care of her body. That was a transaction. I was putting out there what I wanted to do. And she never came back with no, oh, in order for you to do this, you got to do this. You got to. She simply, she had my number. She called me the next day and said, I want meet me out. Meet me out. And I did. That was our transaction. I told her what I wanted. She said, meet me out. We went out, had some cocktails and all that. You know the rest. I'll leave it at that. But it was just that. And maybe she said, shit, I gotta respect his honesty and went with it. But certainly she could have came back and said the next day she could have called and said, oh, since you said this, well, you know, it ain't nothing for free, this or that, and gave me that spill, whatever. But it was simply like, what you doing later on? Meet me out. I had to do it. I had to come through. I had to pull up. And I always tell that story. That was the first time I probably went out by myself. And I was younger. Usually back in the days, you roll with your crew, your boys. You go out. You got a couple of your boys. You're going out. Even if you're meeting a couple of girls, you're with somebody. I never went out, not in Buffalo or like Niagara Falls. Could step out, but not in Buffalo. Usually, I had a couple of my boys with me when we went out, and I said, "Well, I guess I got to put my big boy drawers on because I didn't want to write no checks that I couldn't cash." And I had to go out and I had a time. That's all I can say. All right. But you were smart enough
Back
not to
to
follow
yeah,
with her. Yeah, definitely that. And it didn't even get to that point. And even to that, she wanted the transaction was after that because I think she worked security or had some position with the Toronto Raptors. She wanted more. She wanted me to, uh, come to the game. She said her parents had a nice cottage. I could come over there. But remember, I got messed up with the whole Canada thing. So that like, no, I'm not coming over there. I'm not coming over there. And she was a nice lady. And she was putting out, well, you can come over here. You ain't got to worry about, you can come into the games. You can come for free and all of this stuff. And my parents got this cottage. Nice woman. But I got messed up with the whole Canada situation that I just, that business merger just didn't work out because I let the Canadian obstacle stop me from going over there, going through the hassle. But she definitely was. She was on the up and up, and it wasn't like she was, you know, like rude or nasty or ghetto about the situation. She was a nice woman. Like, hey, I want to spend more time with you. Yeah, I just didn't because I let a barrier stand in the way. And sometimes with contracts or situations, there comes barriers that stop you from being successful in those business mergers.
yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize that about the average man is that sometimes situations and circumstances present themselves and you just can't quite pull the trigger. Because and I think we've talked about ones that have got to. It's not necessarily self sabotage. You get like I go back to a female that I was dating, when I was in college, and she had graduated and she moved back home. Wasn't anything I could do, and I was thoroughly smitten with this female. One of the females that I probably outright would have considered having children with, and you all know my stance on that. But I couldn't. She's married now. She has kids. I hope she's doing well. Hope the family's doing well. But they happen, and that particular she was everything that I could actually want in a wife, and I just never pulled the trigger. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go one step beyond and say, not only did I not pull the trigger, I didn't even attempt to have sex with her because that's the regard in which I held her. Now, could I? Absolutely. I didn't. Now, my boys might harangue me. They were, what, man? You all of that? That's the way I was feeling. But this goes back to the wants that I had on that list. Yeah, I had some. Let's just say I had some people that I hung around that I was doing some things with, and we'll leave that at that. But I wasn't treating every woman that I came across like that because every woman that I came across didn't present herself like that. Now, when we were out partying, especially when we were going to college, we was like, shoot, man, like, we ain't trying to necessarily get handcuffed to any one long term. We might have somebody we dealing with for 6, 7 months, maybe a year, whatever. But that's the other thing, and I've talked about the whole paternity thing. It may not even be that because her and I could have been careful, but she might be dealing with a fella that she doesn't care about, and she does conceive. Now she gonna bring that back to you or back to the man, and we see it happen all the time. That's how Maury Povich. I'm sorry. Well, Maury Povich. Um, I can't remember the other cat's name.
Jerry Springer.
Uh, Jerry Springer. That's how all those shows got their notoriety by women who were being so free with themselves that 2 or 3 men would pass in the paternity test and none would be the father. Now, that's not necessarily the fault of the men, but that's why you have the situation we talk about in Black America because we have groups of people who are being that open sexually, that when the damage is done, the damage is done. And I'm not advocating, that a female who's out here living that lifestyle use abortion as birth control. No, because the the mental damage that does to an individual or individuals, you can't address that. And I was doing a little math. So this is where this is why 50-50 now has risen to the top of the discussion chart. If you take a man, just a simple man, he's working a 9 to 5 job, he keeps a roof over his head, car running, bills paid. He's all right. If he goes out twice a week, $50. At the end of a year, he will have spent almost $5,000 with nothing to show for it. If anybody walked up to another individual and asked them for $5,000 and they said they were going to get nothing back in return, how many people you think will say yes? How many people you think will give them that $5,000? But this is what men are being asked to do. And then women wonder why why it only seems they're being objectified. Well, it's not easy to necessarily earn $5,000 and then just give it away with nothing coming back. Guys are saying, you know what? With that $5,000, I can get my passport. I can go overseas. I can find me a suitable mate there, or I can trick off. Either
ROI,
way,
return on investment.
I'm getting what I want.
and and again, there's so many different ways with transactional behavior. I've mentioned this before. I had a young lady back in the days that I dealt with, and she was like, she didn't know if she wanted to have a child by me because I was too dark, and she wanted a kid that would potentially have that was mocha color and have good hair. That's what she wanted. Her transaction, she wanted someone that she could produce a child with, and her child could be a certain color and have good hair. She also said that I didn't make enough at the time. Her income kind of doubled mine. And was it hurtful? Absolutely. But, you go to the lab, you do what you got to do, and then the tables turn. I'm into flipping tables. Now I'm the big dog. I'm the big fish. I'm the big fish. So you hurt my feelings. I'm gonna try to turn the tables and let you know I'm the big fish. Tables got turned. But those are the type of things that's put out as far as transactions that, hey, I don't want to do this, or if I end up pregnant, I don't know if my child is going. It's not the dream child or dream look that she had for a child. Okay, that's fine. But that's the type of things that people put out there. Some women will say, "Oh, you 38, 40, you still live with your mama?" Nah, I'm not gonna take that transaction of giving up my household, uh, with you coming to the table and you don't have no, based on your circumstances. Some guys may say, "Hey, you got 3 kids by, two different men. I'm not about to. I'm not my the transaction is, I'm not about to deal with your history and kind of mortgage my future because of your situation." So they may say, "Nah, that's not a good merger for me." Again, it's about merging. When you come together in a relationship, you got to merge things. you coming together as one. So a lot of things you may say, this not gonna fit my contract, or this is not what I'm looking for. Some women may say, like her, always state certain times he's not available. And they may say, I don't like that you work this time, 11 to 7, or whatever the case is, because that means we can't do this, we can't do that. That's something they want. That the transaction that they want is time that he may not be able to give. And then he may say, shit, on Sundays, that's totally blocked out. And they may like, well, I like short weekend trips. So how does that play? So it's it's not as simple as people think, but it requires communication and just shit understanding situational awareness that you already knew that this person did this. So how did you expect that? And then you want to argue about it. Void the contract. It's not gonna work. Sooner or later, you have to move on if you're not getting what you want. Greg said, "Good discussion. Out of here. Final thoughts. Maybe the best relationships are not transactional." Well, I don't know
Which,
what relationship that you even. I don't know relationship that anybody is that hasn't been transactional.
well, you know what? This is the thing about that. Those people can be found. However, are they going to reveal that of themselves? Because a lot of people they're fearful of being taken advantage of. Because if a guy sees that and a female saying, "Look, I'm you don't have to open up the wallet and break the bank. We can go walk on the beach. We can get an ice cream cone. We can get a cup of coffee." The guy's gonna say, "Well, wait a minute. Damn, I struck the lottery." So you do that for your first few months. That's what you do. You happen to be in a location where you can do that. You can walk on the beach. You can go to the park. Free concerts, both to a music genre that you both like, happen to either feature in a cover band or a real authentic band. You have some that are set up in that city. City's big enough to where they give free concerts. I know they've done that in Lewiston here at Art Park. Free concerts. Leonard Skinner's been here before. So you say, hey man, damn, this is going well. So y'all sit there and you ask about the next step. She said, well, you know what? I'm comfortable with things are right now. So now it's a guy you perplexed. He said, well, damn, wait a minute. What? Huh? She said, I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm just looking for somebody to go out and spend some time with. I'm not looking to be physically intimate with anybody. I like your company. I like the fact that you ain't putting no pressure on me. The reason why I keep it kind of free is so you don't feel obligated because you haven't spent any serious money. Now, the guy's like, damn, I thought I had it all. I thought this woman was into me like that. I thought I found a rare one. I thought I found a diamond in the rough, no flaws. Now, they haven't sat down and discussed why she's in that situation. Why does she feel that way? Because he never really considered it. So let's delve a little deeper. Let's say she's been the victim of assault, a long-term relationship. Guy had proposed to her, bought an engagement ring, and it just soured her outlook. on relationships, but she still wants companionship. She still wants the male companionship because that's the side of her that needs that commitment, that kind of contact. And he fit the bill. She found him attractive. Maybe 3 or 4 years down the line, when she gets okay, she's healed enough, she might engage in that. But he's like, shoot, why am I going to spend my time with this woman and she ain't putting out, and I can go get this other female and she might do it. It reminds me of the what I'm describing. For those of you who remember the movie Malcolm X, when he had the young sister versus the Caucasian female, and she was being raised by her paternal grandmother, and the paternal grandmother kept her on a string. Denzel understood that, or he understood that, she understood that. But in order to keep him, she wanted to give up her prized possession. And this is the conundrum that a lot of people, male and female, come to in relationships. They place such a premium on sex that if they don't get it when they want it or when they desire it, they consider everything else a waste of time. So this is where the transaction comes into place. People want to feel like they've gotten something for the time they invested. People want to feel like they've gotten something for the money invested. Nobody's out here to build relationships, rapports that'll stand the test of time. That way, if something does go wrong with the relationship, there's a foundation to fall back upon so they can rebuild and say, okay, you know what? Let's start from here. Let's start from this particular point in time where things were better. Why? Because they never made that point. Things weren't always better. They just weren't bad. They don't have anything that they can build on because they never started out to build. They never talked about what the family looks like, where they're going to live, the type of income they would like to be in as a family, where they might live, what the kids might do in terms of none of that was discussed. So that's the bigger part of the problem when people rush into relationships and money becomes the focal point. And I know I'm just talking about money right now, but everything else comes in. Because once you get past the monetary aspect, then you have other things that follow that. Are our religions compatible? If the religion actually even is a thing, are we kind of close together in the number of children we gonna have, the number of children that we want, rather, whether we have them or not, and what's to say if one is infertile? Have we talked about abortion? I'm sorry, abortion. Have we talked about adoption, fertility clinics, any of those things? See, a lot of people don't realize that once you get into someone you want to be in a relationship with, how much further down that path are you willing to go before you get to a point where you're willing to submit things, or do you even want to submit things? Do you even want to get married? People don't discuss that stuff, and then they wonder why when a relationship ends. And we talked about this last week with the three deaths. When the relationship ends, what was there that kept you two together for any length of time?
Well, I'm gonna be one always to say that a lot of times people people always have a over. I always talk about greater than, less than, equal. Relationships is about mathematics. Greater than, less than, equal. You give me greater, you get greater. You give me less than, and I'm probably gonna fall back. You get less than, then you try to give equal. That's all about transactional. Transactional. That's a business math terminology. Uh, so I say relationships are built on greater than, less than, equal. Oftentimes, when you're in relationships, when you do something out of the blue, out of the ordinary, a kind gesture, you might get, thank you, baby. That was sweet, but it's real short. But let something don't go right. Because sometimes it's not about monetary, it's about time. And you're not able to fulfill a commitment. That shit just go on and on and on and on and on. And I'm like, why do you harp on the negativity of something wrong? But when I just did something good, I got a simple thank you. You so sweet. But you don't rant and rave or give all the positives about how that made you feel
I'm
because
with you.
we're as humans built on, unfortunately, seem like negativity. On negative, we put more emphasis on just harping about things that went wrong instead of the positives. That's why a lot of times people say, "Oh, we're going to start off with the positives and all that." I don't even know which way is better. Even when you're getting reviews at your job, you might get all of this mumble, all of these great things. Then at the end, because they have to, it's built on. Oh, I have to put in something negative. You don't have to. Oh, it's just the choice of words that you could use to kind of spin it. But I think even in relationships, it's too much harping on things that may not went right. So, and in that case, the transaction is, in certain cases, it might be time. Like you're not worried about the money thing. It's just the time, or people harping on time, or and wondering why you can't do this or you can't do this. But clearly, a lot of times they already know the answer, and they may know your work schedule. They may know the rigor that you go through as far as that. And the one thing that with Doc said, Daphne, she's like, I want to know about a person's 401k, retirement. When you, unfortunately, people, as we are in our 50s, you know, if you're when you're in your 50s and you're out in the dating pool, retirement talk is probably should be a part of the conversation. That probably should be a part of it. If you're 50 something and you're not talking about that, I don't get it because maybe one of you may be like, shit, I didn't put in X amount of years at my job. So I'm at the point of retirement. So shit, when your ass getting up and go to work, don't be rolling over mad at me. Because my day is free fall. I don't got to worry. Bills still gonna be paid. I got money coming in, and I ain't got shit to do. And be, but you still have to work unless you get in a situation that he says, "Baby, we good. I got enough. I want you to retire. I don't want you to continue to work." Then that's that transaction. That's a transactional piece that you may accept. He may say, "Hey, we're losing out on valuable time because you got to go to work, and I'm off work, and I'm not working, so we're going to be fine." So he's making sacrifice. So you have to think about it. Those are conversations that happen when you're in your 50s. So you're in your 50s and you're not talking about retirement and other things like 401ks and benefits and different things like that. I don't know what the hell y'all conversation is really about. I really don't, because that needs to be a big part of it. Because again, sooner or later, that person is going to be, again, they may have something else lined up, but for the most part, whatever they do have lined up is probably going to be something on at free will that they do at their leisure. So their time is going to look different than your time. And you can't get mad when they say, hey, well, me and a couple of the fellas that retired too, we about to go on a fishing trip. well, you always got time, and I gotta go to work. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We only been together. We just, we ain't been together forever. We just got together in our late 40s, early 50s, and I happen to be retired. I got time on my hand and got money to do it. I'm sorry that I do something I enjoy and you got to get up and you still got to punch in. It's not my fault. Get rid of the attitude. Get rid of the attitude.
Yeah, man, that kind of resentment, believe it or not, especially if the roles are inverse and the female can sit on, I don't know a whole lot of men who are capable, mentally capable of walking down that path. And in all honesty, I know you said in the 40s. I think those are conversations that should be had from day one. That's right, day one. And I know there are going to be people out there saying, why in the hell am I going to be thinking about retirement at 25? Well, let's look at it like this. If one of you happens to suffer an injury, let's say you're married now. Let's say you're 26, 27, you're married, been married a couple of years. One of you gets in a car accident. What does your life look like then? Your income has been conceivably cut in half. Are you going to bail on that partner? Or are you going to stick around and see it through? So now you have to worry about medical insurance. You have to be worried about certain things, maybe retrofitting your house so both of you can stay in there. You're going to have to pick up the extra hours. Now, depending on what type of injury this individual has, they may still be of some service, meaning that they might still be able to earn some type of income. Or they may be able to switch careers and become an advocate of some sort, earning some income then. What does getting out on vacation look like? Whether it's flights, whether it's driver, whether you talked about whether you guys have discussed what David is. We're gonna get us a bus, we're gonna get it retrofitted, and we're gonna drive across the country. We're gonna work remote. We're gonna make this work. Are you dedicated enough to do that? Because there's a lot of people who find themselves in this situation and they're better off. And no one is injured. They just said, we found something that works. We sat down and talked about it. I'm a freelance accountant. I'm a travel nurse, this and that. We make about 125 grand. We went out and got this bus, mechanically sound. We drive across the country. We don't want for anything. We visit family. We do this, we do that. And they're okay with it. But they didn't know that until they actually sat down at about 26, 27 and said, hey, let's talk about this. Let's see how serious we are. And people say, well, that's a pie in the sky ideal. Nonsense. There are a lot of people out here who are doing it. You just don't hear about it unless you come across them in certain circles. Now, there's some people that blog about it. I've seen them personally. Personally speaking, I think that's the coolest shit on the planet. You don't have to worry about tax liens, tax foreclosures. The only taxes you're paying is essentially on the things you buy. You get your vehicle registration in one state, your insurance, where it's low at.
That is sweet.
No,
actually, my last principal at the middle school I worked at closed. She said that's what she was planning to do. They was going to get an RV, and they would she was like determined, like, I don't know if we're going to sell the home. We may keep it for our kids, so they can have somewhere to come to. And I think she was waiting for her husband to retire. But she said they were just going to travel in their RV and go from location to location and live like that. And you're like, wow, interesting. I mean, in this And the way things roll out, and the way things are happening now, that seems like a luxurious idea because you can say, "Shit, I'm tired of this place. We moving on to this place. We'll be here for a while," and you could just probably never be bored with. And depending on what state got this going on, you might like, "Oh, we gonna be here because they got a lot going on during this time, so we gonna camp out here." Man, just something to think about. But you got to be in a that's a relationship that probably, like Herb said, was already mapped out. Plans were put in place, finances is lined up, and everything is good to go when they get a certain age. But is that the case now? And again, we're speaking on that's 50, mid 50. I mean, I'm over the mid 50, 56 point that in any relationship now, you're going to have some serious conversations, some uncomfortable conversations about finances and about future and all of that. Because if one of you, again, is lined up that they say, as I say, I ain't working a day over 60, not for nobody else. And the other person, they don't have that shit lined up. And they may will have to work into their 70s. That may not be an option for that guy. He might be like, "Yeah, I'm not about to sit back and deal with your miserable ass as you get older and you got to go to work." Shit, not me. Not I. And that may end up being the deal breaker. But it's something you have to think about. And again, we keep emphasizing this because I know people be talking about, "Oh, I'm just gonna relocate and all that." You better check into all of that retirement stuff. If you got pensions and all that stuff, you need to check into it. And that's why sometimes we've talked about situations that a woman may had a job and then the guy may be reluctant to move. It may be because of his pension. I've been here 20
Mhm.
years. Like shit, I can't go nowhere. And she's like, "Well, I'm getting an increase in my income. We could be fine. You could find something else." But in his mind, like shit, I'm solid where I'm at. I'm not. So that's when you get into the conflict because she may have a wonderful opportunity to do this, but meanwhile, he's at the latter end of his opportunity, and he's been at somewhere for years, maybe a plant or whatever the case is, since he was 20, and now he's in his um, early 40s, and they like shit. I can almost get 30 years in, this and that. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. So it's things that you have to discuss. So like almost like you got to put certain scenarios out there. Like what
Right.
if this happened? What if that happened? What would we do? But a lot of times again, when people jump in these relationships, it's just kind of like little jump off situations and shit. Somehow you end up together and you deal with this person, but it's really no roadmap. But if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. If you don't know where you're going, you can go up any road and it can get you there because you don't know where your ending is at.
And that actually is in the song too. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Pardon my bad lips, but yeah, I mean, and this is what a lot of people, regardless of their ethnicity or their age or their gender, they don't sit down and think about life in those terms. They think about, you have to be affixed to one location forever. And I understand that once kids enter the picture, you want some type of stability. I grant you that. And you can get that type of stability with kids. Think about it. The average family, the average individuals that start out, even if you have kids, even if you wait till your late 20s to start having kids. So let's say you have three kids. You start at 29, you're 32, she's 27. You have three kids in that time frame. By the time you get to 42, middle aged, you can start planning that. So by the time you get to 50, 52, 53, your kids are well on their way, if not have graduated, have established themselves. The house, if you own one, they may want to take it over. If not, they say, you know what, mom, dad, we have our own house. You can sell it and take the money and put it into add it to your 401, excuse me, add it to your 401k. You can invest in some stocks. You can live off of the annuities. That way you don't have to worry about anything else. So if something happens medically, you're covered. If something happens to where you have to the RV needs major repairs, you got it covered. These are the type of things that financial planning helps. But a lot of people are too afraid to discuss money on a first or second date. No, they want to wait till they get years down there, get years invested. Why? The reason why I ask why is this. If you don't, and I'm speaking to the women now, if you don't want to go 50-50, then what are you going to put into the relationship monetarily that your significant other can count on so he can factor that in so he knows what he has to cover so you two can live like that in the future? This is how you can tell where a female's mindset is. They like to shit test men. I'm all about shit testing women. This is why I put it up front. Look, I don't have a car. If you come pick me up for a date, I'll pay for the date, put gas in your car. We covered. Nothing's got to happen. You go your way, I go my way. If we date again, if we have another item, we discuss that then. It's worked for me. I had one female that said, look, I can't deal with you. You ain't got a car. We out. KYP. And I spoke about that. Did I not speak about that?
Yeah.
Hey, nothing lost. Beautiful, exceedingly beautiful woman in the late 50s. Absolutely stunning. But hey, I'll put the cards on the table. I'll let her play them. She said, no, I can't do that. Cool. No problem. But there was no time wasted. She didn't feel neglected, abused, or taken for granted. I didn't either. But you have to be comfortable in who you are and the things that you do. So when you put them cards on the table, somebody rejects them, you can get up and thump your chest and say, hey, look, as a man, I did what I was supposed to do. I came correct. I came truthful. I let her make the decisions. So there is no animosity. But not enough men are capable of doing that. And then you have some women who aren't magnanimous enough to say that. Because I had to kind of extract that out of her as to why. Now, I being me, I kind of figured out why. I was like, well, I ain't got a car, so this, that. And she said that. I was like, cool, no problem. I understand. But I've been rolling like this for 20 years. So it doesn't bother me. Like I've said, any place that I need to get to, I have good credit. I have credit cards. I have a valid New York State driver's license. I can get there. It is not a problem. Where was I at rolling in the new year? Las Vegas. I didn't drive. And most people here, they're not going to drive. So in the grand scheme of things, if you set your life up accordingly to some things aren't going to be necessary. You won't find the average individual in New York City talking about owning a car. Why? It's not necessary. So location becomes a lot of different things. Not only that, how you set your life up is huge. So you might have a female that might bitch about you not owning a car and tell her, say, look, I don't need one. Now she might push and push and push. You can tell her, hey, look, we're not going to discuss this anymore. Either you accept the fact that I don't have one, or you move on. Make it clear. Make it crystal clear that you're not going to be bullied into doing something that A, you don't need to, and B, is unnecessary. Because if you don't, you're going to have to always deal with that. And you can call that a boundary. And that's the need versus the want. Why go spend $60,000 on the car when a $25,000 car will do the same thing? Oh man, this woman said, I got to have this in order to deal with it. Then guess what? Have her buy it.
Yeah. If you're still in the stage of the game that, especially as you get older, that you got to do things that you normally wouldn't do to get a woman, nah, you might have to rethink that. At this point, you are who you are. You bring what you bring to the table. Of course, you may tweaks, you may make some changes here and there if that person can bring that out of you, but it ain't gonna be no situation that you're gonna stress over, because if that's the case, then you probably better suited being by yourself. And again, like I said in the intro, it's not about what was the actual phrase? Something to the effect of kind of things will fall in place if you're looking for that, or something to deal with your heart. Let me go back. I don't know why I gotta go through that. I just look for it. What is it? Um, oh, follow your heart. When people say follow your heart, sometimes you can't follow just your heart or whatever, because again, when we say relationships, marriages is business, it's a business merch or whatever. And like I said, following your heart doesn't co-parent, heart doesn't pay bills, or whatever the case. It has to be some logic behind some of your decisions. Like someone we always talk about, women make decisions on emotions, and men make decisions on logic. And sometimes some things has to be based on logic. So if you find yourself in an uproar with somebody over and over, and they may be caught up in their feelings, but logically, it just don't work for me. That's not how what's going to go down or what's going to transpire. You have too many bumps in the roads like that, sooner or later, in the words of my grandmother Bay, you got to go one way over the bridge, and they have to go the other way. That's just the only way that it could be. Uh, and hopefully, you can leave on decent terms. And I always say, what I won't do is become your best friend. I won't be moving your furniture. I won't be, oh, uh, I'm in a bind. Can I borrow a few dollars? No, we ain't that type. It ain't that type of party. If I run into you, we'll be cordial. I'm not going to be texting you or calling you or checking on you. It's just what it is. Doesn't mean I'm not thinking of you. I'm just not. It's just not going to be that type of party. And that's the problem. Sometimes people extend stuff too long. They don't let stuff go, and they just keep going at it, keep going at it. Feel like, nah, you'll know, because after a while, shit, my and I got a little mean streak to me. I might not say happy birthday to your ass or whatever the case is. That's just how it is, whatever. Because simply, I might not give a fuck if you had a good birthday or not, because I'm not thinking about you on that level. Because a lot of times people do stuff just for trends,
Yeah.
just to be doing it, whatever. I'm just not gonna say it just to be saying it. Uh, I think an old administrator had said it a long time ago. She said, "One thing I know about Mr. Glover, he don't say much, but when he speak, it may be profound. So I'm just not gonna waste words, just saying stuff because everybody else saying it. and everybody else doing it. If I do it, then I might genuinely care for you or like you or want the best out of you. But other than that, I don't give a fuck what I don't give a fuck what your birthday is like because I'm not sitting around thinking about what you doing on your birthday. It's just simple as that. Sorry.
No, and that's called bulletproof in your life. A lot of men, a lot of men get to a point, especially when they're our age and they're not married, they think they have to have a significant other. And I'm not going to say you don't. What I will say is this: you have to get to a point where you are comfortable with the decisions you've made and the outcome that you have. And when you can do that, everything else becomes low grade noise. Not even chatter, it's just low grade noise to the point where you don't even pay attention to it. Now that means pardon me, that doesn't mean you can't have females that you are interested in. That doesn't mean you can't have females that you want to spend time with. That does mean you can dictate when you see those females. And that means you don't necessarily have to be beholden to them. And I know the women are going to say, well, why would a woman want to live like that? Because a lot of women have gotten to the point where they say they don't need a man and they want to live like that. But they also want the ability that when they want companionship, they can reach out and someone's there for them. Because we make the mistake as men of thinking that all women want to be married. No. And how do we know? Because we look at the divorce rates. The divorce rates are steadily climbing up, which tells me that a lot of women don't want to be married. That does not mean they don't want to cohabitate. And that certainly means that they don't want a man. That means they want a man on their terms. In their terms, like Sharia talked about years ago on this platform, we could be married but living apart. You come over, you do your thing, you go home, I'll stay here, whatever the case is. Or you can get in your RV, crank that sucker up, and move on to the next town. You can be that Rolling Stone that Papa was. You ain't got to be beholden to say, hey, babe, I'm out. I'm due to come back in about 6 months. I got to roll across country. I got a delivery I got to make. I got to stop somewhere to pick this up. I'll come back. That might be the new relationship. Those might be the new connections that we have. We don't know. What we do know is this: what our parents did in terms of courtship, marriage, family relationships, it's not working anymore. And we have all the proof that we need to confirm that when we look at social media, when we look at the marriage rates, when we look at the fact that children aren't being produced in the numbers that they once were. Passport bros. How much more confirmation do you need that the way we connect with people has inevitably changed? May not be for the good, hey, and this may not be a bad thing. But I do know this: I'm going to carve out a niche for myself. And if I find a female that wants to sit in that niche with me, guess what? I'm gonna make it happen. And if I don't, I'm cool with it. But you have to not, like I said, what do you need versus what you want. Me, I don't need a whole lot. And and the older I've got, the more I realize that I don't necessarily need a woman in my life. I'm good with the way things are. As long as I can get to my football, around September, everything else is just low grade chatter. I tell people because I realize how wild it sounds. Well, what do you do around Christmas time? What do you do around Thanksgiving? I have a huge family. I can always stop in at one of my relatives' homes, partake in the celebration there, especially Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is the only holiday I really ever celebrate. I was supposed to go to my brother's July 4th. Shout out to you, Rick. I didn't make it because I didn't want to get caught in the rain, and then I was just tired as hell. I just stayed home. I'm content with the little things in life. Just just
Did it rain there?
no, it didn't. They were
Okay.
talking about an 80% chance of rain, and they didn't start. I don't think he started grilling until about 3, maybe 4 o'clock, and I had to be back home at 6 to get ready, at least to try and get
Yeah.
some sleep for work. So I wasn't gonna be out there a long time anyway. So one way or another, I wasn't gonna be out there too long, and I haven't been sleeping well in the last year or so. So I got to make sure that when I can get some sleep, I do get some sleep. But for me, family is everything. You know, we got the fellas trip coming up in October, and I relish those those things because we're getting older, and who knows when our cards gonna be pulled. But in terms of a relationship with a significant other or female, I'm okay. One way or another, it's what it's gonna be. I'm not trying to put a round peg in the square hole or a square peg in a round hole. And I'm just like, look, I don't have a whole lot of women that I'm actively pursuing for anything. So I'm just like, you know what, man? Life is good right now. And if I can, or if I can, when I get my home situated, repaired, and everything else, you might see me out there on the road with an RV or one of those made over buses.
I rather that for you than a motorcycle. I rather that for you than a motorcycle. I'm here to tell you,
hey,
book it,
you,
stamp it.
hey,
I rather
you
have
might
that.
see me. You might see me towing a tractor. I might have one of them joints back there. So when I hit the local spot, I'm good. Man,
Yeah.
but that's the beauty of it. It's two things, and I always mention the movie um um God damn it, with George Clooney. I can't recall it right now. That and the Bob Seger song "Roll Me Away." I I like the Bob Seger song because he picks up a female, they get on the bike, they're going west, and she says, "You know what? I miss my home." Turned back around, took her home, and I got back, and I kept going. At some point in time, especially for men, women not so much because women are nesters. Women need that belonging, especially if she has kids. And more often than not, you're going to encounter a woman who has at least one child, whether that child is an adult, a toddler, or whatever the case is. She's going to have one. That makes her belong. That gives her a feeling of belonging. For men, it's not the same
Yeah.
because we're not looked at like that. We're looked at as people who produce, people who give, people who support. So if a man doesn't speak to his daughter in 4 or 5 months, it's not a problem. Now, if she calls him and she needs something,
That's the key.
yes, and he doesn't respond, then there's a problem. And like it or not, men, that is the role that society has planted for us, which is why it's important and incumbent upon you to understand that once you become sexually active, You understand the woman that you're dealing with. Because whether you marry her or not, if you have a child by her, you are wedded to her via the state. And the state ain't gonna let you get away with anything. The state coming for you like you are a southern magnet and it's a northern magnet. They gonna find you. And ain't
And,
nothing you can do about it. So be prepared. So that way, and it starts out small. And I always tell people, nobody's expecting you, or no one should expect you. Even when you get out of college, you might have a master's, you might get a doctor's. Nobody should expect you to have your castle ready. However, what you should have are the blueprints here. So even if you don't marry that woman, you can say, this is the benchmark I want to hit at 30. This is the benchmark I want to hit at 35, 40, 50. And you measure yourself and your success so you see where you are and you understand the pitfalls that come ahead of you. This is, and people look at me like I'm crazy now. This is one of the reasons why I just don't deal with women that can conceive. I'm not trying to get caught up in that trap. Mm-mm. And I see one. Matter of fact, I was driving through the drive-through of the restaurant. Won't mention the restaurant. That's a young lady. I said, "How old are you?" She said 20. I said, "If I was about 30 years younger, I asked for your number." For me, that's cool. That's flirting. But you got a lot of guys who can't do that. They can't maintain themselves. They can't maintain themselves. They be trying to get in the young girl's panties. Why? What are you gonna do if she gets pregnant?
Hmm.
You gonna bitch, you gonna complain, you gonna mope. All the while, you gotta foot the bill. Yes, you decided to deal with a 20-something and you're in your mid-50s and now she's pregnant. But you're keeping the child. True. Figuratively and literally. Because you don't have that type of power. You don't have that. Yeah. So now it ain't 50-50 because she ain't making the money you make. So now you carrying the whole thing. And she ain't talking about retirement. She just pushed out a kid. You ready to retire. You ready to go get your RV. You get on your bicycle and roll across the mountains like this Bob Seger. Ain't gonna happen. And that's why discipline is a major thing. Whether it's discipline of the mouth, meaning the food you eat, discipline to exercise, discipline to read, to make sure you're aware of all the different things that you can do in terms of investment or what. All of that is important, man. That's why it's good to touch base with your people every so often because that helps keep you grounded. Now, I don't talk to my brothers all the time, but every so often I manage to get to them. Now, I got a plethora of nieces and nephews. For me to talk to all of my nieces and nephews, boy, oh boy, what I'd have to set aside a good 36 hours of touch base with all my nieces and nephews. I'm blessed with a big family, but I'm telling you, man, I'm at the point now where I'm just looking. I'm like, okay, you know what? I know what I got to do to get to where I want, and that doesn't include a woman. However, if I find one, I can open up my plans and just say, hey, look, this is what I'm looking at. What do you think? Do you think you can fit inside these plans? And if you say no, cool. If she says yes, then the next series of talks come around. You own a home? Do you want to sell that home? Or do you want to keep it for your kids or your grandkids? Or do you want to rent it out? And when we come back around, this part of the country, we have some place to stay. We don't have to necessarily rent a hotel room for a week or so. Because I own my home, and the same thing applies to me. Do I want to sell, or do I want to have my relatives live here so I can give them a leg up so they don't have to pay rent, because rents right now are absolutely absurd. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. Uh, Let me put it to you like this: if I were to rent this home out, I probably can get about 13,000. Oh, 13,000. Sorry, 1,300 a month, easy. That's that's bad at math right now. That's about I was gonna say, is that about 130,000 a year? Is that correct? Somehow somehow that doesn't seem correct.
42 some thousand a year.
Nah, the hell. That's 15,000. That's like that don't sound right. Yeah, about 15,000 a year, and that money goes straight into my pockets because the home's going to be paid off. Yeah, I'll put some aside for the taxes, repairs, probably about 4 or 5 grand a year. But that's still going to give me about $10,000 in my pocket. That's what I do with that 10 grand. Repairs on the RV, put some in the 401k, a Roth IRA, and just live off the interest. Driving around the country, seeing all the things that I want to see. And you know what? I might pack the RV up and just take a trip to Europe. Do all the things I want to do over there. These are all the possibilities that exist. You know, even if you go 50-50, and if you go 50-50, it just makes it that much, um, it just lightens the load. And it's always better to, to travel with somebody, especially somebody who you like doing things with. Absolutely. But if you don't, eh, they say sometimes the best company is your own company.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you know people have to think about. And as far as men, that's why men sometimes they may not be visible for every event because they trying to get what they can get. And if it's an opportunity to make some money, he may not be. If somebody say to a man, "Oh, if you come in, you get triple overtime and all that," they're not going to be caught up in holidays and these events because we all know what it's for. It's just generating money for the country, whatever. And sometimes you got to remove your that attachment to your mindset. Like again, Thanksgiving, everybody like to eat. Family come together. Uh, some of you bring a dish and all that. That's a good positive thing. But most of the other stuff, it's all about generating money and all of that stuff, putting out money. And sometimes people, as you get older, you don't get caught up into that. If you older and you're 57, you might have a grandkid, or your kids may be older. Shit, they may not get you nothing, and that might be a mutual thing. You ain't gotta give me nothing. I ain't getting you shit. and we keep it like that because I don't need anything or whatever. And if you do give me something, I want it to be from the heart. It
Right.
and the focus may just be on the grandchild or grandchildren or something. So it's like so many things that you have to think about. And again, we're speaking as 50-year-old people. Like certainly when you're in your 20s or 30s, you may not be at that point, but you could absorb the information and say, "Hey, shit, I remember they was talking about that. I want to start putting this plan in action ahead of time because a lot of times we may have not put, if you can look back and say, damn, I would have did this differently to be at this certain point. I keep speaking on it. I probably would have never left New York State if I would have knew or was advised on, pensions and different things. I had no freaking idea. It was like an emotional decision that I did. And now, there's consequences behind that I may have to work a little longer or less I'll be penalized. It's so crazy. Penalize you for this or that. Um, they got so many damn rules as far as your money, and that's the only thing I could say to people. May look good. You may have people trying to convince you to move to another state. Hey, come down here and all that. Understand your age first and foremost. Understand the years that you have at your job. Also look at your vacation time and all that. Because if you uproot and move somewhere, you're not getting all that luxury. You're starting over fresh. And that don't mean you like if you're at a certain job, if you call off, you come in late, they may say, hey, they been here. We good. We are right. You got a system in place. But when you start fresh, you don't have them luxuries. It's like day one starting school. You gotta adapt. And again, cell phone ring, got your kids calling, this and that. You may not have them luxuries. They may be looking at you just got fucking here. Why is your phone ringing? Or why is you picking up your phone? But when you've been somewhere 15, 20 years, and the people, you pick, hello, listen, I'm busy, whatever. I'll call you back. And they're like, what's that you doing? They always calling you about it. They already may know the history. Uh, these are things that you have to think about. Don't let your cousin or your fake ass friend tell you, girl, I'm down here. You might as well pack up your stuff and come down here.
Yeah,
Don't do it. Her
yeah.
situation may be different. Don't fucking do it. They just want somebody to hang out with.
Mhm.
More than likely, they just want somebody to hang out with. Don't freaking do it. Whatever. These are decisions you have to take your time and weigh out everything. And it's so much to it that sometimes we don't think about. That's why we try to bring up and have these conversations because you may have elderly parents that you say, "Oh, I can't leave. I'm the most reliable person here, even though it's a great opportunity. Can't go nowhere. Mom's is not doing well, or whatever the case is. If I leave, who's else gonna be around?" It's like so many variables, whatever. So what we're trying to say is think about. You got to think about everything. You can't make emotional decisions. You got to use logic behind the things, even in relationships. You got to think. You may have a man and say, "Hey, baby, I'm out here, whatever. You should pack up your stuff and don't come on through." Now you know damn well you can't come through if you got an elderly parent here or parents, or you got you're attached to your kids and they're struggling, and they always have access to you. That man may be trying he may be trying to relieve stress from you, but meanwhile you're, as Herb mentioned before, women are nurturers, whatever. So your mind may be elsewhere. Now, that person got you 600, 800 miles away that you just can't jump in the car and leave. Got to catch flights and all that. And that requires money and all that. It's the bottom line. I'm saying all that is so much shit to think about when you make decisions, and even with dating, all of this stuff is transactional. It may be money, time, distance, emotions that impact decisions are made. So you have to think about that stuff. You have to sometimes you have to spend some time alone. That might be a time that you may say, "Hey man, I'm just about to go to Panera Bread, have me some soup and a sandwich, sit here for a couple hours and just get away from it all and write
Yep.
down some pros and cons and all that stuff." And yeah, I think. But I know y'all don't do that shit because y'all gotta always have somebody in your business and all that stuff and be included in your decisions. And that's why shit just keep faltering and keep faltering because people don't learn. You always just thought sometimes you gotta think for yourself. And sometimes you gotta think for yourself and you gotta think by yourself. is important. Buy yourself that time away, and think like, damn, okay, I'm ready to move on to the next or make a decision based on this. I don't know. We just be talking. We just two old ass dudes just be running our mouth. Running our mouth is one of the people on YouTube said, y'all ain't getting no, excuse my language, y'all ain't getting no pussy. Y'all old ass dudes ain't getting no.
I'm good with it. That means I ain't got to worry about the proverbial I'm late. That's a good thing. Oh, by the way, the name of the movie is up in the air, and I've always talked about the movie, but there's a lot of gems in that movie. So if you haven't watched it, watch it. Make it a date night with somebody, and just say, "Hey, look, this is what our future could look like." Oh, hey, wait a minute. This is what my future could look like because it's primarily based upon him. But I think it's cool. Um, it gives a glimpse because there's a couple movies like that. Um, that one, and then there's the one with Tia Leone and Nicolas Cage, where he plays a perennial bachelor. House laid, nice job, and Don Cheadle plays the Angel, and I can't remember the shoot. Let's see. Let's see. The Family Man. Yeah, both of them are cool movies. The Family Man is wild though because of the roller coaster they take him on. He'll wake up one moment this, then he wake up the next moment a bachelor, no kids. So either one is cool. It gives you a glimpse into what we're discussing in terms of what your life looks like when you make certain decisions and how somebody else may or may not fit into your life. Those are all the decisions you have. So 50-50 becomes, like I said, that becomes chatter. If she's invested, and like David said earlier, if she likes you, she's invested. If she doesn't, she won't. And money's going to be an issue. If she doesn't, because there's been a few females that I've dealt with that money was never an issue. Me not owning the car wasn't an issue. We did things, she drove. I put the bill for the rest. So whether it was sporting events, um, driving movies, the female I was dating at the time, she covered that cost. So, but it was cool. I had no problem with it. Rather enjoyed it.
I think
But I was
what's her
chosen.
name? JT Jason Tatum. I don't know if it's his fiance or woman. I forgot her name, but she got a song and it mentions some part about love ain't 50-50. And, and I guess she was pretty much saying that it may be always an imbalance or something. It may be at certain points somebody may be doing 60-40, it may be 70-30, and all that. And that's what I always talk about the concept of interdependence, that sometimes certain people gonna pull at certain areas more than you pull because that's their strength, and that may be a weakness for your, but overall you're gonna have some strengths that they may not have, and it all balance out whatever. And that's what people have to understand. So if a person isn't the greatest at budgeting the money, but you are, and you like, hey, I'm about to get you on track, but he may be an excellent cook in the kitchen, and that may not be your thing. Yeah, but you learn and you grow from each other, and eventually you build stuff, whatever. And you're able to deal with that greater than, less than equal theory. That shit, we solid on every end. So no matter what, to conclude, to wrap this conversation up, again, like we said, love is free, but relationships cost. That there's some transactions that take place, and no matter what, when it comes to relationships, whether it's time, money, peace, uh, just your overall mental health, there's some type of give or take in relationships. And the sooner you realize that, the better off you may be. And that's pretty much what I concluded with. And again, I know this always going to spin the block because you'll see other chatter coming up, and we'll keep talking about these same conversations until eventually we master it, and it sticks in people's heads. Big Bad Wolf, any close out comments?
Nope. And an investment up front is a long-term investment. So if you find a female and she's not willing to contribute anything, you may want to cast her aside and move on to the next one. Because if she's not willing to help you now, and I'm not saying she got to pull out the red carpet, but if she's not willing to invest a little something, she ain't willing to invest at all, as far as I can see. And that, my friends, you don't need. No man doesn't need. Because if you happen to get her pregnant, she's gonna look to you for everything. Growth and growth, growth mindset. Take care.
And my last thing, I see the USA must got eliminated from the World Games. They lost.
Ooh,
Um, I don't know, score 3-1, 4-1, whatever the case
ooh.
is. No, all that means is we being a powerhouse. We got to keep our kid. We got to develop kids at a younger age. Uh, and I ain't talking about other. I'm talking about our color skinned kids. They need to be in soccer and all of that stuff. Whatever. We got to be a powerhouse. Whatever. In those games. And I can tell you, and I ain't trying to be, you can call me racist or whatever the case is. I know when our kids on top of sports and they learn from a young age, soccer, you're fucking
Virtually
below,
unbeatable.
yeah, below the fucking doors, up and down. The speed game would be too much for anyone in the physicality, but oftentimes we don't shy away from those sports that this is just it takes away from our kids having more opportunities when
Yeah.
that they can participate in other sports other than basketball and football and excel in and dominate in and got to do better because I don't follow soccer like that, but I guess
Well, you
USA
understand.
never really make it even to this point that they made it to the final 16.
Well, yeah, that and the fact that you can actually play soccer professionally with the MLS, which is the Major League Soccer, you can make a decent living, and you can make a living MLS career. If you look at the major sports, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, which we're terribly underrepresented in hockey, so I'm not even gonna count hockey. But baseball's the longest. Basketball, baseball contracts are guaranteed. I think basketball, I think to a lesser extent, then football, then hockey, then MLS. Like David said, you could turn that into a 15-year career. In that, let's take the least, the smallest contract, probably about 250 to 500,000. You can call shots. You can do what you want to. You can retire at 33, 34. You still have the better portion of your life ahead of you. You want to have a family, you can do that. You want to travel the world, you can do that. You want to open soccer clinics, you can do that. Shout out to Fat Jack, Tim Wynn. He's doing that. Shout out to Paul Harris. We know him as Duggar. He's doing that. People, this is why we talked at the top of the show. This is why we talked about putting the kibosh on that violence, because we don't know where the next great elite person is coming from in this city. This city produces a lot, but we have to give these kids the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding that they got to leave that shit alone because it doesn't benefit them. All it does is stop them. And whatever stops you prevents you from being great. We just want you to be great. And whatever it is that you do.
Yeah, we definitely at a crossroads with that, and like these youth, they need to stay busy. They need as many opportunities, whatever. Again, parents. It's not always about football, basketball, and we even just talk about it on the sports level, because I know it's a lot of talented athletes that come out of that city. Baseball, soccer, all of that stuff. Get your kids, get your kids into that. And I can tell you, and I don't speak on my children like too often on here, but my son played soccer. He enjoyed it. He played for like 5 years, and I remember I think I had missed the deadline to sign him up, and it was only a couple days, and I was like, okay, he's been playing, and the commissioner at the time, it was just rec. He did not take. He acted like it was absolutely too late to take him. I said, "Oh, this is racially driven." Because I've coached basketball and kids come in, they take enrollments late, they add people to your team, people who never played before, and you got your team established. I said he didn't want, they don't want, they didn't want black kids to be a part of that because it was a certain element that I was saying he used to play goalie and all that. He was pretty good. He's pretty good, and I kind of dropped the ball on that and never like forced a hand and say, you know what, shit, we're only a couple days late. Been playing for 5 6 years. Somebody better take his damn money. Take this damn money. I just let it go. But and then after that, I just said kind of like fuck it. But that's probably me being stubborn and didn't see it through. But it's not like he ever mentioned like, man, I miss playing soccer or anything, because at that point he was more into basketball or whatever the case is. But the moral of that story is, if it's opportunities and you see something in your children, see them through it. See them through it, or you won't get the results that we get now with people going around pistol whipping people, shooting people, and all that. Young people doing that because those people are lost and they never was attached to anything. That's why some of the people go out and do the things that they do, because they never found a group that they was attached to do positive things. So that's the crossroads that we're in now, whatever. And innocent people are dying on the hands of these people who never got accepted to anything but the streets. And the streets will take you in. They don't give a damn who you are. Oh, you can do this. You can make money. You want to make a few dollars. Oh, you want to be the hitman. I need you to do this. I want to set. I need you to set this person up. There's a role for you in that. But see, other avenues, you gotta perform. You gotta put in work. But the streets will take anybody. Remember that. The streets will take anybody. And if you're a streetwalker, you're a woman, and you out there like that, shit, you can weigh 400 pounds or you can weigh 40 pounds. The streets will accept you and somebody will take you in. But other things, other professions or other avenues may have criteria and standards, but the streets don't always have standards. So that's where we at. All right. That's it. We out. On to the next one. Hopefully we have a peaceful week everywhere because I know it's getting hot, it's getting warm, people cutting up. Just stay safe and be mindful. All right, folks. We out. Peace.
Woo.
Go OJ.
Ah.